think it's interesting. They say the Nephilim mated with human beings. When you look at our genetic cap, right, on our DNA, I really start to question the positive and negative in the atom. The purpose of the cap. They say that they shorten the telomeres on us, right? They shorten our lifespan. Now, what if the cap was actually designed to stop the reptilian DNA from taking over the human biology, right? Because they wanted to keep a mixture of the bloodlines. They know that to exist here, they need our DNA. They need to compromise the shell, right? Because in certain environments, because of the gravitational forces and the frequency, matter takes certain shapes. So it would actually make sense to infiltrate this type of light chamber, this type of universe, uh, inside of the people who are of its native origin. And this is the reptilian effect. It's when the DNA can actually override. It's their DNA can override all DNA, basically. Like if they mix blood with different species, because they're reptilians, because they can shed their skin, their DNA can do the same thing. It can become accustomed to all genetic strands, or at least probably most of them, to be real with you. And they designed this technological device, this cap, to stop their DNA from fully transforming us into this. And this is how they can run this earth looking like us. I think it's a device used for them. It's basically like a cloaking device on the genetic strand, so they don't go too far into their animalistic reptilian selves. What I find interesting, though, in terms of giants and the Nephilim in general, when they talk about the firmament, dividing the waters, so you could look at that as the waters in your brain. Definitely the left and the right hemisphere when Moses was walking through the waters. We know that was symbolism, but also it could be literal too. The waters in your brain, the frequency that, like the song, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Like when God sends that frequency through your water, since you are mostly made of water, it's able to vibrate your organs, your chakras, your mind, your third eye. It can decalcify the third eye. And I think it changes your whole energetic frequency to a point where you really do start to see life differently. I think a lot of these symbols are relevant, but also I think the firmament is not just a disconnect from our mental in the heavenly place, right? I think it's an actual. It could be actually technological as well. I think it's like a force field, because it's like somebody else commented on one of my other videos. How else do you keep oxygen, which is a lightweight gas and it rises, encased? You have to create a force field. So that's the firmament keeping oxygen on this planet. So what if the firmament is multifold? It's not just separating the heavens from earth. It's separating your mind from the spiritual realm. And this is why you got to go through certain ritualistic practices to create that unity, to come into one being within yourself. I think it has a few different meanings behind it. I think it's also a symbol of testing the hearts and the souls of men on earth too. I think that this is a testing ground as well. So, but what's interesting about the firmament, I think it also might extend to the reptilians as well, them decreasing the oxygen levels, affecting vegetation, affecting us, and then hitting us with different chemicals, GMOs, all of this stuff, aluminum, all of it, like the red 40, the yellow 5s, literally all the way across the board to weaken the vessel, to make us more susceptible towards evil on a genetic basis, bro. Like it's in our genetics to be evil. And you could actually kind of see it, because when you really think about it, why do we have to teach children not to lie? Like, I want y'all to really consider something. I can't actually prove this, but I feel like most kids with no direction would grow up to be evil people. And that would actually be a very interesting experiment, to where you don't train people to a fear reward system. You don't train them to consequences. You let them actually organically be themselves. That's the real truth about life. None of us are actually ourselves. We've all been changed from birth. We've been trained. So you don't really know who you actually are. I think shadow work in general is a really good tool to kind of discover what that is as well. You got to be able to come into unity with yourself. A lot of people, y'all lie to yourselves. Again, cognitive dissonance, cognitive bias. But what's interesting is this. It's all interesting. But I figured out spiritually, you got to, from my point of view, from my experience, you got to be honest with yourself. I think a lot of the times prayer don't work for people. It's not necessarily because they don't know how to pray. It's because they know not themselves. Therefore, God can't know you. If you lie to yourself about who you are, the sins you commit, what you actually like to do, your vices, why you do your vices, where it came from, the justification, sanctimonious platitudes, the illusions, right? If you can trap yourself in this echo chamber, how can God reach you? So you got to be able to transcend all of that. You got to literally be able to break through the mold of your own lies to yourself. And that's the problem. A lot of people really don't want to look in the mirror. And then when somebody else tell them the truth about themselves, they always point the finger back at the person telling them the truth. It's a double-edged sword. You can't actually tell people the truth about themselves because they get resentful and spiteful. You know what I'm saying? And then they'll attack you out of that pain. Um, that's why I just let people basically entertain their own suffering. Straight up, I'm not about to get attacked because you got some type of double standard in your mind where you think somebody that ain't perfect can't tell you the truth and can't offer you in the pain. I just let people lie to themselves. And I believe God is merciful, so God allows people to lie to themselves as well. But it's because of that people never really hear God. They never really hear the true voice. I think it's a couple of reasons people are capped from the spiritual realm. And I think a lot of it can be undone with healthy eating, meditative practices, spirituality, certain religion, exercise for sure. And yeah, just certain ritual practices, reprogramming the mind, reprogramming your genetic code. I'm out.